Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm very blessed to be here. I feel very fortunate. It's my first time in Canada. Like I said, I've been in America and working in the US of A for a few years now. But as you can tell by my accent, I'm an Irish man, and I'm going to give you a little bit about my background. I was born in a place called Northern Ireland, and near Belfast in Northern Ireland. Have we got an Irish woman?
Well, my dad.
Your dad? Cool. Well, everybody's Irish. Everybody. The Antrim Road in Belfast. I used to gig in the Antrim Road in Belfast. The Antrim Road in Belfast is actually a perfect description of Northern Ireland in general. It's a main thoroughfare that runs through the middle of Belfast, and on one side of the road the Protestants live, and on the other side of the road the Catholics live. And I used to gig off the Antrim Road, and I actually could tell you a few stories about growing up in Northern Ireland. It's a pretty crazy place to grow up in. You probably heard about the IRA and the UDA and the UVF. So as a young musician, you know, at 15 years of age, I'd done my first gig, and I was gigging in places like your father was brought up in. Belfast, a very, very divided town. Everybody lives in their own little pockets. There's Catholic pubs, there's Protestant pubs, there's Catholic schools, there's Protestant schools. No mixing. There's absolutely no mixing. So I'd be going into, my name's Ciaran, and you might as well write Catholic across your head, because anything that sounds Irish is generally Catholic, like Siobhan, Liam, Seamus, Ciaran, that type of stuff. And if it sounds British or Scottish, like William or Robert or that type of name, it's very much a Protestant. But I'm proud to say I married a Protestant from Northern Ireland as well. So it was like touching the forbidden fruit. You shall not go there. And I was like, oh yes, I will go there. And I'm very proud to say we've been together 17 years and married 12. And we have a beautiful boy, James. And you know, growing up in Northern Ireland was a very, very weird place to be a musician. I wrote my first song at 6. I always knew I was going to be a musician. I told my mother at 11 years of age, I'm going to be a rock star. And she was like, yeah, okay, we'll see how that goes. And I bought my first guitar at 11 years of age, where I went potato gathering. I did what every good Irish man can do. I went gathered potatoes for 2 solid weeks, and I made £60. And I bought an electric guitar, which I still have. And I couldn't afford an amplifier. An electric guitar with no amplifier sounds something like this. It's very rock and roll. Can you hear that? It's really cool. So I used to sit with the head of my guitar resting on my wardrobe in my bedroom, and the wardrobe would resonate as I played with the timber wood, so I could hear myself play. And I'd be sitting in there in my bedroom at 11, 12, 13 years of age learning over and over again, and stuff like and loads of rock and roll songs. And I always dreamt of being a rock star. And I used to sit there at 14, 15 years of age, honestly, with my best friends in my mother's living room with a VHS copy of In Excess live at Wembley in London. And I used to dream of being on stage with a band like that. But it was a long road for me. I grew up in Belfast, like I say, served my times in those pubs. And many, many times my life was in danger gigging. I remember one specific story, not too far from the Antrim Road, actually. I'm on stage with 2 girl singers. My best friend Paul's on drums. And we thought it was a football dinner dance. So everyone's sitting in round tables like this. And halfway through the set, a guy comes up and goes, "Give me your microphone." And I said, "Okay, here you go, there's the mic." And we're still on stage, and 15 masked men march around the corner of the stage, a big stage like this. And they're in balaclavas, blacked out, bullets across their chest, Kalashnikovs, Uzis, grenades. And they march across here, and the guy at the front shouts, "Company, halt." And it became very apparent to me that this was no football dinner dance, because the entire audience were on their feet chanting, UVF, UVF. And UVF stands for Ulster Volunteer Force. And they're basically the polar opposite of the IRA. 100% Protestant, loyal to the Queen, have committed, like the IRA, some of the worst atrocities you can commit to another fellow human being. And I'm standing there on stage with Paul on drums, my best friend, and 2 girls who are Protestant girls, and they're crying because we all thought we were going to die. Thankfully, this was just a fundraising event for the Loyalist prisoners. And the 15 masked men just was a show of arms, as they call in Northern Ireland. Basically, the police don't go into these neighbourhoods, so these guys policed the neighbourhood, and they were just letting the room, which was the high command of the UVF, by the way. And the guy handed the microphone back to me after they read a statement out from the loyalist prisoners, and he said, "Sing you wee shit." And that was a real turning point for me, because my instant, I didn't even think about it. I just started singing. I just went, "You're simply the best. You're better than all the rest." And there's a reason why I sang that song, because like everything in Northern Ireland, it's political, and that song is political. On the UVF flags, it says "Simply the Best" down at the bottom of the thing. So we sang our way out of from death to life that night, and my best friend Paul never done another gig, and we were about 18, 19 years of age then. I'm very blessed that I've spent my entire life seeing the world, singing songs, and I've rubbed shoulders with some of the greatest artists on the planet, and you know, but it took a long time to get my first break. I was 32 years of age before I got my first break. I gigged everywhere. We'd done every festival across the world with a band that I was in. I spent my entire 20s, and at 32 years of age, I was about to give up. I just was like, "That's it, I'm finished with this. I've had enough of this touring." I was skint, and my wife and I were getting married, and we were settling down in Ireland to live. And at the moment I'm about to give up, my life changed forever. I was writing a song with a guy called Ian Green in London, and he knew a DJ called Paul Oakenfold. Some of you might have heard of Oakenfold. And Oakenfold was best friends with Madonna. And that's where my life changed forever. So I wrote a song in a garden shed in London, and it ended up on a Madonna record. The song was called Celebration, and it was 14. It went to 14 countries, #1 in 14 countries, and Grammy nomination. And overnight, I went from an unknown songwriter to a guy that all the record companies in the world knew who I was, and publishing companies. So I was getting phone calls from everywhere, from Canada, from America, from Hong Kong. And I started writing for other people. I started doing movie soundtracks, which opened doors. I worked with a band from Ireland called U2. You might have heard of those guys. On a movie soundtrack called Killing Bono, where I done the soundtrack. And I never thought I was going to be a rock star. I thought, well, maybe I'll just sort of focus on writing behind the scenes. And I wrote a song a couple of years ago for a guy who sang, a guy called Al Pacino, who sang a movie called Danny Collins. The movie was called Danny Collins, and he plays this aging rock star, and I wrote the song, his greatest hit in the movie. But the INXS thing came, like most of the things in my life, it came out of being in the right place at the right time, putting myself out there and hoping for the best. And I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. I'm at a party in Sydney, Australia, and I meet the keyboard player from INXS and Andrew Farris, and we sat for 3 nights just socializing on a balcony, in a beautiful balcony overlooking Pittwater in Sydney, and just beautiful water and yachts. And after 3 nights of drinking and getting stoned and all the things you do at those parties, Andrew Farris said to me, "Would I like to sing a song?" And an INXS song, and I sang this song. All veils are misty, the streets are blue. I'm in love, yeah, the chill divine. In all that exists, yeah, but none has your beauty. I see your face, and I will survive. You mystify me. You mystify me. And that song changed my life forever. Thank you. I went home to my wife, who was 8 months pregnant with her first child, James, and I said, that was awesome. I got to meet Andrew Farris from INXS. And he phoned me a week later and said, "Do you want to come down again to Australia and try out singing for the band?" And literally, James was born, and we moved to Australia when he was 6 months old. And 2 months later, I'm standing in front of a band who I idolized growing up as a child, singing these songs in front of 30,000 people in a festival in Buenos Aires. The first gig I'd ever done without a guitar around my neck. And I suppose my story is just a story of never giving up on what you want to do. I didn't have a plan. I still don't have a plan. Well, I'm a little bit more organized than what I was. I'm now 41. But before, it was never a plan. I just wanted to sing music, and I sing music from the heart, and I write music from the heart, and that's what I do.